Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates. With your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everyone. This is Cindy with another episode of Spectrum Perspectives. And today I have Beth Susag on with us. Hi, Beth. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Cindy. It's great to be here.
So, Beth is a neurologic music therapist and she works with Josiah. So, if anyone has watched my episode with Tawny Cullen, she's the author of Josiah's Fire. And Josiah has his own Facebook page, Josiah's Fire. Josiah, I believe, has written a song. We're going to get to that. We'll get to that later. But I did want to share this with people because I always just talk about autism and I don't really talk much about myself. I'm always just talking about everybody else, but I do have a music past. I'm going to share this. This is a CD of me. I recorded two CDs. So this is
Fabulous.
um I am a singer, was a songwriter. I sing on worship teams, and I did go through this phase where I was writing songs, and that was 20 years. This is probably 15 years old. So this is,
Wow.
and if you look closely at it, it says Cindy Morrow. I made up a stage name,
That's
which I laugh about
fantastic.
because this is back to the days of MySpace, if you remember
Yeah.
MySpace, right?
Yep.
And Robbie, my son, was young at the time, and back then people were very concerned about internet safety and all that. So I'm like, I'm going to make up a fake name to do all of this under to protect my children. So I
Sure.
have. And so if you
Yeah.
go on YouTube, you can look up Cindy Morrow and you're going to find songs on there that I did. So music is an interest of mine. So I'm very happy to have you on the show today to talk about this because this is something different. This is something I have not touched on at all.
hmm
And I would like our viewers to get to know you a little bit. So let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about kind of your history in music and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here and be interviewed and talk about this. Well, music has been in my life my entire life. So I'm a flutist and a vocalist. I don't do the flute anymore, but
Kind of
I
hard to play the flute and sing at the same
It
time.
is. It is. It is. Um, so I basically got my undergrad degree in music education because that's really all I knew that I could go into at the time. Plus, I have two educators as parents, and so I thought, okay, I guess this is what I've got to do is do something in education, and music was it. So I started studying, went to Concordia in Moorhead, Minnesota, and about halfway through the 4 years, I thought, well, maybe I'll pursue psychology because I had a real interest in psychology. And but then my junior year in college, I heard about music therapy, and I thought, okay, this is the ticket. So I completed my BA in music ed. So I do have an undergrad degree in music education and a license as a K-12 music teacher. Um, and then I pursued a master's in music therapy from the University of Minnesota, and graduated in 96 with that degree. And then I started, so as a music therapist, I started working in the public schools, and I was in St. Paul Public Schools right away as a music therapist. So music therapy has been in the public school system in St. Paul for sure for many years. Actually, it's probably 35, 40 years maybe, because I've been doing this for almost 30 years. It's crazy. So,
It's interesting. I
so
had not heard of music therapy in schools before.
so how it works is if you think about, in regular education, students will go to music or phy ed or art. Those are the specialist classes. And so when students go to specialist, that regular teacher's on their prep. So in St. Paul schools, how they did it, and so they worked music therapy in along with adaptive phy ed. This was years ago. It was basically combined. So music therapy covered the prep for the special ed teacher as well as adaptive phy ed. So it's really a beautiful way to work music therapy into the public school system. And they've been doing it for years. And now, as you know,
So this is for special ed kids?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
So
music therapy.
how does that work in St. Paul area? Like, are they are special ed kids in the regular public school?
Yeah.
Uh, okay.
Yep. So, I mean, if we're just looking at St. Paul Public Schools, the special ed program,
Mhm.
um, predominantly for the autism classes or the DCD classes, those students, generally most of those classes have music therapy as a prep provider for the regular special ed teacher.
Hmm.
So that's how they build it in programmatically, and it works really beautifully. Minneapolis Public Schools has music therapy on the IEP, and so it's works in differently, and different school districts work it in differently. Some school districts hire music therapists on contract, but anyway, that's a whole nother conversation how that all works. But I started in St. Paul schools in '96. And I would have, 5 or 6 students, most of them autistic, many of them non-speaking. And I just remember thinking, okay, I really think these students, they really are understanding what I'm saying. Their receptive language was good, but their expressive was poor. And there was just something inside of me that I thought, there's something else going on here. At that time, and remember this is 1996, so at that time, facilitated communication was not really on the scene, but there was a couple teachers who knew someone who did do FC at that time, and they brought in someone who did, and this person worked with one of our students, and I saw him communicate through that, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the ticket right here, because this is what's behind those eyes that I
Hmm.
see with these kids. Because I'm like, I know that they're in there, as we all say. Um, so I did a little bit of my own research, and again, I'm still, doing music therapy as within the classrooms, and I'm still thinking there's something going on. So I did more research. I heard about the training that was in Syracuse, at Syracuse University with oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Doug. Anyway, it'll come to me. But I went out in 2001. Oh no, okay, I have to go back. So in 1999, I went to a music therapy conference. And at conferences, you have like this track, you can go down this track and you can take you can go to these presentations and then you go down this track. So I was going through my whole thing and trying to figure out what sessions I was going to go to. And there was one where I had one session I was going to go to over here that was really gonna it was a big huge session, and then there was a smaller one, and it was called spiritual something about spirituality and autism. And I thought,
Hmm.
what's this about? And I thought, is this touchy-feely? I don't know about this. So I kind of was like, oh, which one do I go to? And something led me, and I decided to go to this very small room. I think there was maybe 8 or 9 of us in there. And Ginger Clarkson is a music therapist. She's also a guided imagery. She does guided imagery, and she was the presenter. And she spoke. She wrote a book called I Dreamed I Was Normal. And so she was presenting on this book, and she published this book in '98. So it was very new. And the whole presentation was about her connection with students that she worked with doing guided imagery, but she also was trained in facilitated communication, and they communicated with her about, bringing them into her dreams and whatever and all of this. And I dreamed I was normal. So in 1999, I was already having experiences, or there was these experiences of bring me into your dreams, and these, at that time they didn't use the word telepathy, but at that time this isn't new now. This is something that was happening
Very
all the way back
interesting.
in
Very interesting. What
1998.
is guided imagery?
So guided imagery is using I'm not hugely familiar with it, but you're using music to, and then they might be drawing on mandalas and kind of working through trauma and using imagery to help work through trauma. Um, I'm not super familiar with it,
Right.
but she has
That
she
sounds like
has
an art class. How does that fit into music?
Well, I'm not going to speak to that too much because I think that she's a music therapist and does that as well as guided
Oh,
imagery.
okay, so she does both.
Yeah, and
Okay.
some music therapists do combine the two.
The art and
Uh-huh.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it's another
Well,
avenue.
that's my other me is
Art. Yes.
my
Yes.
paintbrushes.
You are very
Oh,
creative.
yeah, so this is up my alley. Okay.
So anyway, so then I read this book and all of it really opened me up to realizing, okay, these guys are in here. And that was when I thought, okay, I need to pursue this more. Learned about Rosemary Crosley, and then I decided I'm going to go to Syracuse and I'm going to get this training. So I did. And
For facilitated
for
community.
facilitated
Okay.
communication. So I went there and so in 2001 I took that training and then I came back and I just quit teaching and I just decided to go full with my own practice at that time, my own music therapy practice.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what I did. Um, and I just started using, I was just the difference with FC at that time is there wasn't really any extended training. So I did a lot of my own kind of just working through and learning on my own and learning with my clients. So it took me about a year or two to just kind of get it and figure out, how to do it. And it's no different than
So
anything
wait,
now.
this is clients for music therapy or FC or both.
Kind of a combination. So I was doing
Okay.
music therapy, but I was implementing the communication method in
Hmm.
order to help support communication while we're
Hmm.
doing music
Right.
therapy. I
Right.
wasn't trained in NMT at that time, at 2001, I wasn't. So,
And wait, NMT?
neurologic music therapy. Sorry.
Okay. Got it.
Yep. So
Oh, you
then
were not. Oh, okay.
I
So you were,
wasn't trained in neurologic.
oh,
Sorry,
okay, but
apologize.
you were a music teacher.
Music therapist. So
Yeah,
you have to be a
okay.
board certified music therapist. So you have to be a board
Oh, so
certified
this is
music
two different
therapist.
things. So
Correct.
NMT is different than being a music therapist. Neurologic,
Correct.
you have to add the neurologic word on that makes it different.
Correct. So I will
Okay,
explain the
got
differences in
it.
that. Okay. So I appreciate this because then I
This
know
is
where I
what I'm
need to
saying. People
pause.
throw out these letters all the time and just assume people know what they're talking about. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. No. Sorry. So
Okay.
it's kind of
That's
like,
okay. It's normal.
nope. So
So, and from now on, people, when she
every
says FC, it means facilitated communication, which
correct.
was the precursor really to rapid prompting method and spelling to communicate and
Yes,
all that. It was
absolutely.
FC was the original,
Correct.
was
Absolutely.
the OG.
It
Okay.
is. It is. So, to go back to music therapy,
Yes.
as a music therapist, you have to become board certified. So, you need to be a board certified music therapist.
Got it.
So, if you're going to do music therapy of any kind, you need to have your board certification.
Okay.
So, I am a board certified music therapist.
Okay.
Neurologic music therapy is an advanced training
Hmm.
to that is you get through it. I took it when it was at Colorado State University, but now they're in Toronto. And so you take that advanced training. And so the difference between music therapy and neurologic music therapy is based on a social science model, working on using social emotional and working on socialization, like in groups and songwriting and singing and playing instruments and turn taking and participation. It's more about socialization, social science model.
Hmm.
The neurologic music therapy is based on a neuroscience model on how rhythm directly affects the brain.
Ah.
And so research has been done by Dr. Michael Tout, who's the leader of the Neurologic Music Therapy Institute, has been done on how rhythm is processed in the brain and how it can affect and impact the body and in the cognitive and the sensory motor and speech areas. So that is a different level of training.
Hmm.
And it is significantly different in the approaches. So when I'm in the school system, it's more like music therapy because it's more social, it's more, in a group setting. when I'm doing work with individual clients, that is very NMT based. So I'm going to now say NMT. It's just a little bit
Yep,
easier
yep,
to
yep.
refer
Hmm.
to that.
Yep.
And so when I was starting years ago, I then took the NMT training in 2003 and started realizing, okay, so rhythm is processed in the cerebellum and the brainstem, which is subcortical. So that means we're not even thinking about how to move to a beat because it's happening below conscious level, conscious thinking. So a good example of that is a baby, like music is turned on, a baby's sitting there and all of a sudden starts bopping. You know that that baby's not thinking about the rhythm. You know the baby isn't consciously trying to bop to the beat. What happens is that musical information, the auditory cue, whatever it is going into the auditory system. And actually, the auditory system, they have it's the fastest system. So that rhythm, that music is processed within 3 to 4 seconds subcortically. And then that goes out to the rest of the brain. And there's more neurons firing simultaneously when music is in place. There's more activity happening across both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. There's research done on musicians, and they found that the corpus callosum between the hemispheres was thicker between for musicians versus non-musicians.
Interesting.
So that just goes to show there's more crossover and there's more happening across both hemispheres of the brain when music is in place, even
Interesting.
if it's just a metronome pulse.
Mhm.
So then,
Yeah, but so that would explain because I'm around musicians a lot, and it just is natural to them. And people that are I've worked with people that it's not as natural and they get very frustrated because they want to be musicians and they want to be singers and they just can't do it. It's not it just they have to think about it too much as opposed
right.
to just being very natural.
But the truth is that they don't have to think about it. It has to do with the connection between the cue and the motor output.
Hmm.
So then if we're thinking about individuals on the spectrum,
Mhm.
so I mean, I know you had Dr. Elizabeth Torres on your show before, so she talks about how there's a delay in the auditory system in the brainstem with regards to the connectivity and coordinating all the senses.
Mhm.
So within neurologic music therapy, when that rhythmic pulse is in place, the body it cues the motor and the body can start to what we call entrain to that rhythmic pulse. So that means to go in sync with that rhythmic pulse. So in NMT, what we're doing is we're using a couple different techniques. Primarily, one is called auditory perception training, and we are using some drumming where we might use bilateral drumming. And I'm going to refer to this from my mentor and colleague is Suzanne Oliver from the Neurologic Music Therapy Services of Arizona, who really is a leader for NMT and autism. And so a lot of what I do is stemming from the work she's done and some of the work that um, Casey DePriest does in Indiana. And so there's just a lot of um, with regards to NMT, it's using drums, using movement to help integrate those sensory systems. So, for example, if we're drumming, we're incorporating the proprioceptive system, even by tapping on and hitting the drum, coordinating the visual, looking, moving, and then the proprioceptive system is actively engaging with the motor and the joints to be able to move, adjust to the drums, and so then that tempo is generally based on what their internal tempo is, like their internal cadence. So I usually get that by their walking, their gait, so their steps per minute. And then I'll set the metronome to that pulse.
Mhm.
And that's generally where I start. But sometimes, if we're not able to get a solid gait, it might be just them sitting in a chair and rocking, and that might be their pulse. or, so it just depends. So I'm watching the body and I'm watching what their body's doing in order to get a cadence, in order to get a pulse that really is going to match what the pulse is for their body, for them to integrate their brain and their body connection and help integrate those senses. That's a lot.
Yeah. No, interesting. No, I'm having flashbacks of my son sitting in the back seat of my car all the time, rocking. But it was always to the music though. He loved music and he would always
Yep.
rock in tune to the music.
Yep.
You didn't
And
have to
so
think about it. It was just natural.
absolutely. So that's what happens. And so what happens is we're using that rhythmic pulse and using that music, and maybe we're singing, maybe we're not. I'm not really singing when I'm in it. I'm just using that simple rhythmic pulse. So to help integrate that system, because if you go back to Liz Torres's work, if you think about Dr. Malillo, who's also done work on the disconnection between the sensory systems and why that's happening is like um, retain primitive reflexes. So it's a matter of like, how can we help support the body and support the brain so that it can be more coordinated? So I use that with drumming, and I use that with and again, this goes back to Suzanne Oliver's work with, she has coined the phrase of progressive proprioceptive activation. So using like deep pressure squeezes. So you activate the proprioceptive system by giving this deep pressure squeezes into the body, but then you do it with the rhythmic pulse, and that's optimizing it. So the rhythm is optimizing and supporting that proprioceptive input, which is why their bodies aren't like, that's where that whole body apraxia comes in. My brain tells my body what to do, but I can't make that connection because there's that delayed and that latency in the connectivity between what the brain is telling the body to do and then the weakened nervous system. So to go back to
That's what I was going to ask. Does this help with apraxia?
absolutely. Absolutely. So if you go back to facilitated communication, years ago when facilitated communication came out, it was just all controversial and skeptical and whatever because of all the bad press it got. But at the time, there wasn't the science behind why was it working? And because what you're doing is you're putting pressure into the proprioceptive system, and the proprioceptors are 4 layers deep. So the reason is because the arm isn't getting the cues from the brain. And so when you put pressure, which is back pressure, when you give a touch support, and for some it's a lot because their proprioceptive system is very weak and very disengaged, but others it might just be like barely a touch, and then that tells the brain, oh, that's where my arm is. So you're giving the back pressure, and then they have way better intention and accuracy. So that's the why. That is why it works. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean anything. I often compare it to, um, I always talk about my dad in this comparison. So my dad is like 82, and so he'll need his walker one day. He'll maybe just use his cane the next. And maybe there's days he can walk by himself, but then there might be days that he needs to use his cane and I have to hold his arm to make sure that he can walk and he can be supported enough so that he doesn't fall, right? But the rest of the world accepts that. Everybody accepts that, oh, he's an elderly gentleman and he just needs more support. There's days he needs the walker, there's days he needs a little extra support here. But then there's days he's feeling stronger. It could be the weather is impacting his joints and his body. But when you think about if the proprioceptive system, if the body is dysregulated, then there's going to be days that someone may need a little more support into those proprioceptors but then there's days they may not because their emotions are calm, they're regulated. And of course, the goal is for independence, 150%. We all want them to be independent. But that is where I started years ago because that's all there was.
Mhm.
And so,
Was it
what
Josiah that said it, or is it Houston that they don't know where their body is in space and they need to feel more grounded? One of them, I
I think
think
it
it
might
was
have been
Houston where he
Houston.
wants to wear like heavy like work boots because he needs to feel where his feet are and he doesn't
Absolutely.
know where his body is in space.
Yep.
I think there's a couple people that have told me that,
Yep.
and that's why they need that support because they just don't even.
Right. And
And
so,
that's why they like the water, or they like the
yes.
weighted vests and things because it
Yep.
helps them know where their body is in space.
Absolutely. That's also called thigmotaxis. So, thigmotaxis is this dependency on an external source. So, like you might see kids walking down the hall, touching the lockers as they walk down the
Mm-hmm.
hall, or they might be leaning into their mom or dad, or they might be flopping on the chair. So, again, we just need to be body investigators and seeing what the body's doing. So if they're slouching down, okay, then that tells me their hips are not getting the information they need to be able to sit up.
Mm.
And so then we can give deep pressure, rhythmic sensory input into the squeezes. So again, we're giving deep pressure, coupling it with the rhythm. And that is supporting that body not knowing where it is in space.
Mm.
But then if you use the rhythm with it, the rhythm is helping to optimize that heavy proprioception, which is what is helping support them finding out where is their body in space.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how does music come into play with that? That's what you're doing with the drumming?
So I start with the drumming, and that's the full body activation with the sensory system. So maybe bilateral drumming by tapping each side.
I think I
And
saw a video. Was it you with Houston? Either that or it was
might have been Darcy Day with
Darcy. I was going to say,
her other
did you work
son.
with Darcy Day's son also?
I don't, but that's Suzanne
Or
Oliver does.
Oh, okay. But she posted the video maybe of them kind
Yep.
of shit. The teacher was walking backwards and he was walking toward her and he hit
Yep.
a drum up here and down here.
Yes. That's
Okay.
what I do. That's exactly
Got
what
it.
I do.
That's why I know when you're doing this, I'm like, wait a minute, I saw a video of
Yep.
this.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's exactly what I do. And that's at Suzanne Oliver's clinic. And again, I give her full credit there because that's where she's been my mentor and colleague for years. So
Got it.
I that is exactly what I do. But then we also can couple that with the deep pressure squeezes using the rhythmic pulse. So you might be going 1, 2,
Okay.
1, 2, 1, 2, or maybe like a waltz tempo, depending on the client, they might say, "Oh, that's too fast for me." And so we
Okay.
might do like a waltz tempo, 1, 2, 3,
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3. So that,
It's so interesting that you're talking about their natural rhythm too, because some kids, like my son, was always in a hurry. He would walk fast, but there were other kids that seemed to move in slow motion,
Mhm.
and that's so interesting.
And the other technique used in neurologic music therapy, really primarily with this population, is what's called music sensory orientation training. So if you have someone who's moving slow,
Hmm.
let's say their internal cadence based on my assessment might be 100 beats a minute
Hmm.
or like 100 steps a minute.
Right.
Then I might just double it and put it at a double tempo, 200, and we'll still do the drumming some way, somehow, depending on what, not some way, somehow, but whatever I'm having them do with the drums. But if I double the tempo, then you might all of a sudden see an increase in their sensory, like even by smiling, or their engagement might increase. So maybe some who are moving slower, they may need that tempo doubled to help get that body at the optimal level of alertness so
Hmm.
that they can be at a better place to then come back and maybe do and then do spelling.
Well, It's kind of the effect that music has, though, right? I mean, you put on, like a happy, upbeat song that's got that faster pace, and it just it does. It picks you up.
Hmm. And some it might be too fast and then it's overstimulating, but then that's
Right.
my
And
job.
sometimes it's annoying.
That's
Sometimes
right.
like I don't want to hear that. I want to hear
That's
something,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So then that's my job to, that's why it's so important to have open communication or at least a way to get communication from them. So then I can say, I can ask them, is that tempo, how does that tempo feel? And some it might just be like one or two notches up or one or two notches down.
Hmm.
And I've had some who have been like, I've moved it up maybe 3 beats, and they're like, no way. I need to keep it right at 100 because that's perfect for me.
Okay.
And so that's where that feedback, it's just crucial to have that feedback. And um, but once their bodies are at that level, that optimal level of regulation, which is
Hmm.
what that auditory perception training does,
Hmm.
once they're at that level of regulation, then they can come back and sit down. And I still have the tempo going on my metronome, but it's very low because it doesn't need to be at a high level at all because the auditory system is, and it's being processed subcortically. So the volume level does not need to be high at all because the brain is still registering that.
I'm remembering when Robbie first started school when he was like 3 years old. So this is going back to like 1993. They used to bring in people, and somebody had talked about auditory training, and they would put headphones on them, and they would play some type of sounds for them, and he talked about how it helped them. I never really understood what he was talking about, and back then I just thought these people are, they're just coming up with anything just to play on the hopes of these parents and take their money. Um, but it sounds like maybe there was something to it.
Well,
I'm
there's
not
different
sure what it was,
there's
but
different programs, and I just know that neurologic music therapy is based on the long time research on how rhythm directly affects the brain, and
right.
some programs, which I don't know, are based more. And so when we think about rhythm, it's processed subcortically. It's not something that we're thinking about. So if a program is designed for someone to match that beat,
Hmm.
that's it becomes a cortical process, and that isn't the goal with NMT, because what we want is the body to entrain and move to what is the pulse that is working for that person.
Hmm.
It's not the pulse is at 120, we want you to match that beat, then that becomes cortical, and it's not, and their body, because of the praxia, isn't going to do that. They can't
Hmm.
be thinking and making it happen. It has to be based on what the cadence is that works for them, that is helping their body and train to that pulse. So
Okay.
then it becomes more connected.
Okay. So you do the drumming and then you spell.
Mhm. And well, generally I'll do the drumming begin first, and then deep pressure squeezes, or the PPA, like the progressive proprioceptive activation, that depending on if they need it. I'll check in, I'll say, do you feel like you need squeezes? And but if they're like, nope, I'm ready to go, then the metronome is set at that cadence, very low, and then we'll start doing some spelling.
With a
Yep.
metronome on?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. So do
And
they point to the letters in a rhythm?
that's the it's not necessarily always accurate, but it doesn't matter because the brain is still registering that pulse, but it's helping with that consistency of movement. Yes, for sure.
Hmm,
Absolutely.
interesting.
Hmm.
Um, so you are an S2C practitioner now too, as well, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So tell me some stories of some of the people that you've worked with and how it's helped.
Well, I I mean,
You
I
probably don't know the difference between only doing S2C and not doing it because you've probably always incorporated both. right?
Oh, are you how what helps? NMT or
Yes. Yeah.
S2C or
Yeah. The NMT, I'm saying. But because I've only spoken to people that only do S2C. I've never talked to somebody that does NMT and S2C. So I'm just
oh,
curious what the difference is,
oh,
like of how much does this help by adding this to S2C? But you've
oh.
never done only S2C. You've always done both.
Nope, I
No?
always because that is what coordinates the sensory system.
Hmm.
That's what's coordinating the senses. So I don't think I could ever even do S2C without it
Hmm.
because their bodies aren't, if they come in and they're dysregulated, this sitting in a chair is the last thing that they're going to be able to do. And so we need to do regulation exercises that are the APT and using the rhythm to help stabilize. And I'll be honest with you, it can take 10 minutes only, and that body will get organized, and then we can come right back down and sit down. Um, uh, but there's some days it might be taking 20 or 30 minutes, but it really oftentimes, so rhythm can impact the body immediately. But then over time, they did research on Parkinson's patients where they used what's called rhythmic auditory stimulation and to help support their gait, because with Parkinson's patients, their gait is stammered and inconsistent. So using rhythm helped to stabilize their gait. And what they learned is that rhythm can help stabilize that over a longer period of time, and it has a training, it can help train the system. So if you're thinking about um like let's say you're going to run a marathon and you've never run a marathon before. I had a roommate who years ago wanted to run a marathon, and she had to start from square one. So that's like, okay, I'm going to run a half a mile, I'm going to run a mile, okay, and then next week we're going to move up to three, whatever it is. So then you're moving up. So there's this training method that helps to build your muscles, helps to build your strength, right? So that's the same thought. So what this is doing is that rhythmic auditory stimulation that the rhythm consistently over time is helping to train the system over time, and it has a lot more long-term effects versus just, one time and it's done. So it has this training effect. And what I've noticed is that when I'll start with someone, that drumming and the auditory perception training lasts a lot longer. We're doing it a lot more, less spelling and communicating. But then within like if I see them once a week, within like 3 or 4 weeks, then we can reduce the drumming because their bodies are over time becoming much more regulated. I also coach parents to help support them to be able to do some of these programs, the drumming program at home. And I've had many, so you're asking, what are some stories? I've had many people just say that their son or daughter it's night and day difference. They're so much better after they've done the regulation exercises with the drumming. They're happy. They're feeling better. Those are the responses that they have. So
Yeah,
it
so being regulated is very important. I've heard that many
absolutely,
times. And if
absolutely,
the kid's not regulated, they're not going to spell. And if the
no,
person working with them is not regulated, they're not going to spell. So
100%.
this is one of the first solutions that I've heard of how to get regulated.
Yes.
Do you use any other instruments? Like you've got a guitar behind you. Do you ever play the guitar
I
in
do
rhythm
some of
or?
the time, but I'll be honest with this population with autistics, a lot of the times just the metronome is
Okay.
what they prefer because it's simple. There's nothing extraneous.
Yep.
However, I do have one particular client that like you turn and I just it depends on whatever song, any oldies song that he wants, and he just he's loose. He'll start dancing automatically, and that really for him is what works. So that helps to engage his body. Honestly, he'll go from a rigid stiffness to just loose and
Mhm.
dancing. In just his alertness level is much higher. Just depends. Again, I'll check in with him. Do you want another song? Do you need another song?
Mhm.
yes, no, I'm good now. And so I'm always checking back with them. Tell me what you feel you need today. And then and over time, then I just might ask, tell me what part of your body needs support today. And so, like, there might be a day that I'm thinking, oh, okay, we're going to work with the legs and the hips today. But then someone might say, no, my feet really need support. So then we'll do drumming on the feet
What do you
to
mean?
act.
What do you mean drumming on the feet?
So for example, so I use these small drums.
Hmm. It's like a
And
tambourine.
yeah,
It looks
it's
like a
about a
tambourine, but
penny.
without the cymbals. Yeah.
It's a frame drum. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
small frame drum, but they're great because they're very solid.
Hmm.
So then I don't have the view of myself on, so let me just change that so I can see myself. Um, so for example, I might have them even just engage their hips to come up and tap the drum with the knees, whether they're sitting or standing. Okay, so that's already engaging that proprioceptive system into the hips
Okay.
and engaging it into the knees. So the proprioceptive is the muscle joint input. So anytime that body part is hitting the drum, it's activating the proprioceptive system. But then if we're doing the feet, then we're moving, I can't see it, but then I might be tapping it and I might have to tap it super hard. But again, we're going to the pulse and I watch their body, I watch their face, I watch their eyes, and I'll have some. And again, if you think about like Houston saying, I can't feel my feet, I need to wear heavy boots.
Hmm.
If I hit it with a hard drum, to the rest of us who can feel our bodies, we're like, oh my gosh, that might be too much and it might be too hard.
Hmm.
But to them, if they're smiling and engaged, that's telling me that that is what their feet need. That's what they need.
Mm.
And again, going to the pulse, so the metronome is set. And so it's going to that pulse and that rhythm is optimizing that input.
It's so interesting. Um, I'm just sitting here thinking about how, like, over the summer, I was stressed because I had an event coming and I knew my mind was, all over the place and I had 100 things to do. And I put on my Pandora, I put on all like Frank Sinatra tunes, like Fly Me to the Moon. And I'm wondering if is that my rhythm? Is that, is there something about that? But that era, what I like about that era was they had like whole horn sections, like they were real instruments. It wasn't all tech stuff done in a studio.
Mhm.
But there's something that I find soothing about that. So when I'm stressed, that's my go-to now.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, how can we help other parents out there that their kids need to get regulated? What are some things that they could try to do with their kids? Like maybe get a metronome or if the parents are not musically inclined, though, they might have no clue how to figure out what
Right.
their natural rhythm is.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's the tricky part because I've had people just set the metronome and they don't
yeah.
know.
And that could be
And
way off.
it
That
can
could
be.
be
And
like
then
playing heavy metal when I'm stressed out. I'm like, that is the last thing that I need to hear right
exactly.
now.
So it can be terribly counterproductive if you're not aware of what pulse it should be.
Hmm.
And also, if you don't have open communication with them, you don't know if it's working or not necessarily.
Hmm.
And so that's tricky. So my recommendation is there's NMTs all over the country.
Oh, are
So
there? I was going to ask because is there
yeah,
something that can be done over like FaceTime or something that you can work with them or?
they could. Oh yeah, I have a couple of clients that are virtual. And so, but the speller needs to be open because we need to get feedback. So that's the unfortunate part
Right.
because I just need to be able to, I can support the I can support the family with being able to assess their gait and assess their tempo.
Hmm.
However, that's not an exact science in the sense that it might take a couple times in order for me to observe that and watch that and get that tempo. But it really is. pretty important to get the feedback from the speller in order to know, how does that feel? Do you need it a little faster? Do you need, so that's the part that is important. And so with me, with my practice, because I can, people can walk in my door and they can communicate with me at right when they walk in the door, because I can give them support to be able to get that communication out so that I can evaluate that right off the bat. But obviously the goal is to help support them to a place where they're getting to an independence to be able to communicate. But we need communication right away. We need communication some way, somehow, so that they can help us, help me, help the parents know what they need to do to be able to help support them to get regulated. Yeah, no question.
Josiah wrote, I know of at least one song. He is so poetic in the way he speaks. It's otherworldly. And this is the kid, if you read Tawny's book, this is the kid that goes to school in heaven and, sees angels and all of these very spiritual things. So it's almost like he speaks in an ancient language, some ancient biblical language, the way he speaks. And I need an interpreter to understand what he's talking about. So I'm like, I've had to ask Tawny, I don't understand what that means. What is he saying? And she has to interpret it to me.
I know.
So it does not surprise me that he writes, poetry and that he put it to song.
Yeah.
I did just interview another mom recently, and she said that her daughter wanted to write songs and she did not know about is it Sonos?
Suno. Suno.
Suno, the Suno app. So
Yeah.
did you help him with that?
Yep. Yep.
So can you explain how that works for if there's any other kids out there that want to do it?
Absolutely. Happy to. So, it's really interesting because it kind of just sort of happened. He was really interested in wanting to be able to write a song. And I thought, okay, this will be really challenging because I don't know how to get a song produced in how he wants it to be produced, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, I can't bring in a bunch of artists. I don't have a sound system or any, I don't have any of that. And so I just did some research, checked in with a few other people who were doing something similar. And I just asked them, like, what app are you using? And they said, I'm not here to promote Suno by any stretch, because I know that there's other apps out there. It just happens to be the one that I used, and it seems to be functional. It's working just fine. So the best thing to do is to get a subscription for the year, which I believe is like $96. But that way, then you can have more ways to kind of modify the song. Whereas just the free, it's like you're very limited. So it just kind of gives you a taste. So you can do the free version, but the best is if you want to produce more songs, I suggest the year subscription.
Mhm.
But again, I'm not promoting this at all. I'm just saying that this gives you more opportunity to be able to produce songs in ways that you want to. So you can throw out the voice that you want. You can say add harmonies. You can say what kind of instruments you want, guitar, piano, whatever you want. You can say ballad. You can say, rock. You can say Christian pop, whatever it is you want. And then you put the lyrics in, you load the lyrics in, and within 2 minutes, this amazing AI happens.
Yeah, AI is unbelievable.
It's absolutely crazy, but it'll produce like a couple versions.
Yeah.
And you'll listen to it, and they might be like spot on, but then you might have to go through 40 different versions just to get the one you want. So, and then change up, oh, that had way too much guitar. So then you just load it again into a different, and I'm not incredibly tech savvy, so I just kind of reload it, and I'm sure there's a way to finesse it and whatnot. But so we did that with one song, and the coaching that I did was just to help support him to write the song in a way that you'd have a chorus and a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus and a verse. And so
Correct.
I basically just coached him in how to create a song and a format, and just also just helped support him in maybe reducing it a little because and also helping him to realize you have an audience who's going to listen to your song. And lots of people are driving in their cars and want to be able to sing to the song. And so that's why the chorus is kind of catchy. You might have some power words in there. So a lot of it had to do with just helping him create the take his poetry, transform it into a song. But my whole goal was that I didn't want him to lose because his words are so absolutely perfect, like just on their own.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure that the integrity of his words sustained as much as we could, but also help coach him so that he could be mindful of not having it be too long, but maybe just shorten it up just a little or
Yeah.
have repeated phrases so that people like that's the thing. You want people to be able to retain the
Right.
song.
Right.
You want them to
And
be
that's the difference between a poem and a song. You have to have a repeating chorus,
exactly.
and it has to be catchy and simple and
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So that was where the coaching came, but then he's written several other songs.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. So it's just and then he just kind of took off on it and he and Tani, he'll be like, I just wrote a song.
Hmm.
Funny, I saw an interview done with Gwen Stefani on some show, and she said, yeah, it took me 4 years to write 10 songs for my next album. And I thought, oh, I know a guy who
Yeah.
wrote 10 songs in like 4 months. So
Mhm. Yeah.
it's pretty
Well,
great.
I think Suno's going to put a lot of songwriters out of business because
Yeah.
because it can do it so quickly. I'll tell you, I put together a new website and I you use AI and you're like, I need a bio for my website that says this is what I do, da, 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 and within not even 1 second, brrrr, gives you a
Exactly.
brilliant write up.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But to hear that it also puts,
Artists
um,
out of business.
yeah,
That's
there was
yeah.
another one, Ray. I interviewed Ray,
Mhm.
and she wrote a song. She wrote a love song, and it's sort of a country rock song, and the voice was great, and the
Well,
whole.
I see Ray as well, and
Oh,
she
do
wrote
you?
that. So we wrote that song together.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
there you go. That makes
I
sense.
helped support her with that too, and she just
Okay,
took off with that as
okay.
well.
So now you're in the Midwest, but Ray's.
Yep.
Oh no,
So I
Ray's
see
there
her.
too. That's right. No, no, no.
No, they're in
It's the
Idaho.
same
So I see them virtually.
virtually. Okay, I was gonna say Tennessee. I'm like, wait, no, no, that's
No,
Zane is in
that's yeah.
Tennessee.
But she's open. She's open.
He's
So
open,
I
right?
can support mom and dad to help
Okay,
implement the NMT strategies and techniques that we use. And
okay,
yeah.
got it.
So my work, one of the things that I want to bring up also is that um there's like three pillars in my work. One is the NMT, the next one is communication, but then the third one is really around grief and trauma that I also touch base on a little bit. So I
Oh,
also have some training. I'm working towards a certification, but in coaching. And I've had coaching while I've been teaching as well. And so and over the almost 30 years of the work I've done, especially with non-speakers and them communicating, the trauma that they have endured with silence is also a big piece of that. So when it comes to supporting them, I'm supporting them with their bodies through NMT, supporting them with their communication, but the other piece is emotional support. And it's really important from my perspective that sometimes if we don't, and again, that goes back to if they don't have a way to get those words out some way, somehow, I mean, who cares if they need that support? They can't feel their body. Again, that goes back to my dad and his needing the walker. It's like, who cares what the rest of the world thinks? This human being deserves to have a way to communicate. And so, if the dysregulation is happening because emotionally there's a lot going on, that emotional dysregulation, that trauma is directly impacting their body. And so there are times that we just might be talking about whatever that might be. And I just had a conversation with someone else just today about this, where what I've known, and we talk about grief, we might talk about how we might go through the different stages of grief. We all do. And that's a normal thing as a human. We all go through grief and we all go through trauma. So trying to, or not trying, but addressing, not going in deep, not at all. That's where coaching is different than like a psychologist. Psychologist is going to go deep into the, or, a therapist is going to go deep into the why behind why it is. But I just like touch on it because it's affecting their body in the moment. And so we'll touch on it and we'll talk about how that anger is part of grief. It's normal. It's okay. Frustration, negotiating. It's like, okay, God, why am I this person who had autism, whose voice I don't have my voice anymore? Why did I suffer this in this way? But also supporting parents, because that trauma goes along both sides of that. And so I have just found over the years of working with predominantly non-speakers that that trauma is living and breathing inside of them just like a cancer. And so if we don't help them release it to a certain degree, or at least understand, like, it's okay how you feel, and understand that their feelings are normal, but they just can't control their body. We can feel anxious, but we can look like we have our stuff together because we can cover it up by, our body isn't going to react to how our emotions are. However, we might have a stomach ache because we're worried about something. So, so I have found that all three of those pieces are crucial to be able to, in order for them to communicate better, in order for them to be able to feel safe, to be able to come back to the table and work through things. That's where even the songwriting is therapeutic all by itself as well. So,
For sure. So when
like,
I wrote this CD,
mhm,
I had come through trauma, and I spent, months writing song after song after song, and it was really just pouring my heart out. And I just sort of picked out kind of the best ones and put them on here. But I have shoeboxes full. I used to record into a handheld recorder with a cassette tape.
mhm.
And I would sing it into that and save it, and then found musicians to help me put it together. But it was very healing.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so sometimes that's what the regulation is. And again, if they're able to communicate, which they can with me, um, then we can get their words out and we can either just talk about it, or, for some, maybe songwriting is part of the therapy. And that
Mhm.
is what is healing for them, but not only healing for the speller, healing for the parent or the family as well. I've had families who said, oh my gosh, that songwriting, my other child is taking off writing songs. So, you know,
Mhm.
it's all about healing, and it's all about helping and supporting them in the ways that they need to be helped, and honoring them as a whole person. It's not just about the body and the apraxia and the spelling, and it's not just about all
Right,
of it. It's
right,
about
right.
how
So,
do
and
we
RPM is all about the academic, but S2C is more social. And now you're taking it a step further, which I really like this, because, well, when they get open and they start communicating, what are they talking about? Right. And then a lot of them have dealt with a lot of trauma from how they've
exactly.
been treated, or just the
Yep,
fact that the frustration of not being able to speak their whole life and being
absolutely.
trapped in their bodies and
And
all
being
of
in
that.
special ed and not being understood.
Yeah.
And then the next piece that I do, so I see clients once a week in
Mhm.
general.
Mhm.
But then I also once a month have a group session with predominantly all my adult clients at this point.
Mhm.
where that's like an hour and a half. And the beginning of it is all NMT motor regulation. And I'm supporting the parents or the CRP, whoever's working with them.
This is
So
in person?
yep.
Okay.
Yep. So then, so then they're doing some of the drumming with their own speller.
Mhm.
And so I'm helping them to support and coach on that. I also use maybe rhythm sticks to do some of the same things. So when we're in a group setting, it's a little harder to do all the drumming because it's a smaller space and whatnot. So I also utilize like claves or sticks or whatever to be able to support them that way. But it's the same thing. It's using the rhythm to help stabilize and integrate the sensory system. But I'm supporting the CRPs with their particular speller that they have. But then, so that's maybe the first half an hour or so. But then I move into a topic, a particular topic. And that topic, it really kind of varies. I really am the one who I'm pulling it from what I'm seeing the needs are, generally speaking, with all of my clients and based on what I see. So like then I'll create like an
Give me a
S2C
for
list.
instance. Give me a for instance.
For instance, so last month we did it on neurodivergent masking and trauma and shame. And so and again, these are all adults. And so I did research on all of these different things, and then I created some questions because then known questions, semi-known or open, whatever they are. And then within that topic, then I'll have their CRP spell with them. So it's really more practice with the parent or whatever their support person is, with their speller within that setting. And then really the last half an hour or so, then we're all open. And so then I may support some who aren't open independently, but then the other ones who are open are, of course, spelling on their own with their CRP. Um, so it's just really an amazing opportunity. It's continuing to grow. I'm just trying to, I mean, because I'm still working in the schools part-time and have clients part-time. So my goal is to just have my practice full-time, but health insurance and all of that stuff right now is questionable in that. But
Mhm.
the goal is to just create this community where they can be supporting each other, and also just really addressing some prime issues. So, and now this month, which is tomorrow, the group session, we're going to be I'm taking that trauma to the next level with like what Noah Seebeck is talking. It's all his perspective. So this month, my focus is from the speller, from the non-speaker's perspective around trauma and around like helping to change our perspective, helping to change the support person's perspective, whether it's the parent or whoever, um, and weaving that in, and then opening up that conversation for all of them to talk about it is amazing. And what's wonderful is that the support people and the parents, we're all learning to keep our mouths quiet so that they have the space to communicate, because we are all chatty and we can talk over them and we can jump in, and people are learning that if these guys were all sitting together by themselves without a support person there'd be nobody else talking but just them.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to create a space for them to feel like where they, not to feel, but where they can have the space and the time that they need to share and interact and not have us interrupt them. I mean, maybe sometimes I might throw out another question or something, but just to kind of provoke or, get the conversation going. But sometimes I just let it be. And then, I don't know, I think it was maybe 6 months ago, the group created a song. And so we created a song together where they each wrote a line to the verse and the chorus, and it's turned out fantastic.
Hmm.
Yeah, just amazing. They're amazing human beings.
We'll have to come out with an album of all their songs, right?
Yeah,
All
right.
these speller songs.
That's right.
Do you see any telepathy with these guys? I mean, when you get a whole
Um,
group of them in there like that, I'm sure it's going on.
100%. And I have for since 2003, since I started getting more open with that, everybody can. Every single person I've worked with,
It,
everybody,
every one of them is telepathic, you think?
100%. 100%. And it's just no question about it. So then when the telepathy tapes came out, I thought, oh, this is great. Finally, people are talking about this because you just don't want to talk about it because you think, whatever, people aren't going to believe me. But I'm just to a place where I'm like, okay, we live in a ableistic society that thinks everybody ought to fit in based on what looks right and what we all think it should be. Um, and and it's fantastic when they're all here in this group
Mhm.
because they'll start laughing. A couple of them will start laughing. And Tanya and I will look at each other and we're like, yep, they're having some conversations happening here, and we have no idea what's going on.
Right, right.
So, and then they'll open up and they'll say, yeah, whatever. They're not necessarily going to share, but maybe they would.
Yeah. But
Um,
that's what's funny to me because when they're in a group, they're only spelling what they want you to hear.
exactly.
There's a
Exactly.
whole other conversation going on behind the scenes.
100%. 100%. Exactly. And they're all guys, most of them, except for a couple girls. So,
Right.
so sometimes I'm like, they're probably having a guy conversation.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Do they ever do they read hear your thoughts? Like has
a
anything
hundred
like that?
percent, a
So
hundred percent,
and
a
do
hundred
they
percent. And I'm starting to, because I've had a couple of them. And so over the years, I used to think, oh my gosh, am I influencing them? And I'm like, are these my thoughts? And
Mhm.
and I was going through my own life stuff, so my head was foggy 90% of the time years ago. But now I've asked them a couple of them, I'm like, are those your thoughts? Are they mine? And every one of them, those are mine. I'm communicating to you. And so I've just gotten to a point where I'm like, okay. And then I had one of them say, everybody has this ability. It's just a matter of being able to channel it. And he said, this is our only way. So we all have these abilities. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try to pay attention to this. And so now I'm paying more attention to it. And because I'm doing that, I'm hearing things louder and I'm hearing things with more clarity. Um, and then I will say this, I'll tell them, I'll say, this is what I'm hearing. And, whatever. And every time they'll confirm it for sure. But if I come in emotionally dysregulated because of something or another, I mean, I have two children, 16 and 18. So there's days I'm coming in with crap. Um, then there's times that they will, they'll just communicate to me, Beth, I feel your energy, or I might say, I know you can tell I'm dysregulated today a little bit, but I want you to know that those are my feelings and they're not yours.
Mm,
So I think what's really important is that they can't always discriminate between what's their feelings and what someone else's. And so they pick up on the energy of other people. I mean, again, that's no different than us. Like you go into a room and you meet someone new for the first time, you might meet person A and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known you forever. We can go out and have a drink and we'll be best friends for life. And then you go meet someone else and you're like, oh my goodness, we had no connection. Now, why is that? Us as talkers are like, oh, I just got a bad feeling with that person and I feel good with this one. And so she's my friend and she's not, kind of a
mm,
thing.
mm,
But for autistics, they're like identifying, this is my interpretation, and I'm not speaking for them by any stretch, but from my years of experience, what I've learned from them is that those sensations and those feelings and those emotions that are coming from one or the other person are being just flooded into them as well. And so that's where their sensory system and they're almost absorbing it from someone else. So if someone comes in and it's a negative energy, then you might see someone just get really dysregulated, but it doesn't have anything to do with them. It has something to do with the person who just came in, and maybe they have some negative thoughts or negative feelings that are going on in them. But because the autistic person can't regulate their body, they're picking up that energy and their body is very dysregulated.
Mm.
But they're the one who looks like they're the one that has the problem. But if they can communicate, so and so has got bad negative energy and it's affecting me. Like that happened in a group session once. And so he said, could she move or go away? She left the room and he was fine.
Hmm.
So a lot of it has to do with this interchange of energy. Um, and I understand how that is. I can't like put my finger on everything, but I'm getting better and better and more in tune with it.
Yeah.
Um, for sure.
Well, I mean, and music is an energy. And like I had mentioned,
Mhm.
Houston has synesthesia. So when he hears
Yes,
music, he sees all the colors and everything because there's a vibration and an energy that's going on during the music. So it just makes sense
absolutely.
that it's sort of all connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're sort of putting it all together. I think that's very cool.
Hmm.
Very cool. And I love that you're dealing with the trauma, the grief and the trauma as well, because
Hmm.
that's energy too.
Yeah.
Um, Very interesting. All right. Thank you, Beth, for being here today. I found it very fascinating. Um, I just had one question. This goes all the way back to the beginning, but have you ever worked with kids with ADHD, and do you find that the NMT helps them,
Um,
like in school, school
yes.
setting?
Yes and yes. I mean, the thing is that the rhythmic support and so music just in general is activating the whole brain. So there's like things lighting up all over the brain. So when music is in place, the brain is engaged in multiple areas. More neurons are firing simultaneously when the brain is engaged with music. So
I think
many
it was
years ago,
when you were talking about the rhythm, when you were talking about people's rhythm,
yes,
I thought of the ADHD because they're just it's constant motion, never sit still, like the 3 second
yes,
attention span, right?
yep,
And
absolutely,
how do we regulate that?
absolutely. Um, I have never worked privately with someone with ADHD, like just that's it, really. That's all. So I haven't done any
Well, some kids have
real treated.
the dual diagnosis, the autism
Yeah,
and the ADHD.
yes. But in the schools, even now, I have kids with ADHD that I work
Do
with
you
for sure.
find that the drumming maybe can help regulate them?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. But when I'm in a group setting, like I have anywhere from 7 to 9 kids in a class, it's a little tricky because then you have bodies that are, and I don't have enough staff to be able to really support it entirely. So it's a little bit different. So oftentimes I might even have them sitting on a ball and bouncing and tapping sticks so that they're able to get the input that they need into their body without me having to facilitate that. So oftentimes like therapy balls are helpful. And so then even just with a steady rhythmic pulse, then they might even start bouncing to that pulse. So again, then that's a group dynamic. And so the goal is to just help to regulate them kind of as a group. But oh,
I'm
for
just thinking
sure.
about parents, helping parents, like if their kids have that diagnosis, like, well, how can we help them, you know?
I would just say that, you know, music in general, it's not like they like if they're going to listen to music, maybe just find some music that, like for you, what's the music that helps to calm you? What can they do? Maybe just do some discovery of what might be helping to calm them. If they can verbally say it, of course, maybe it would be like I have one kid who really loves heavy metal
Mhm.
and or hard rock.
Mm.
And that engages him. And the faster and the more upbeat it is, that is super engaging. But that's because his body and his alertness level is low most of the time.
Mhm.
So again, I think it just has to do with for parents, I would just say that you don't necessarily have to have an NMT to really get that pulse, but if you're looking for preference, maybe supporting them in like listening to different styles of music and seeing what their ideas are and what their thoughts are and what they prefer.
Yeah. I find a lot of the kids that I know that are ADHD are musicians.
Hmm.
Um, because and that's I think when I was thinking about it too, when you were talking about the brain
Hmm.
also, and I'm just wonder because their brain is wired to do multiple things at a time.
Yes.
I know for me, when I learned how to play the piano, um, once you add the left hand, it was too much for me. Like my brain could not compute
Yep.
all of that at once, and that's when I quit taking the lessons, but I played by ear. So for me, it was too much to have to read notes and translate that. Like I didn't myelinate my let my brain myelinate so that became automatic. I was thinking about it too much and I was getting frustrated, but
Hmm.
I could always hear chords in my head. I'm very good at harmonies, and so I could just sit and play it automatically and it wouldn't frustrate me.
Hmm.
Um but and I think that's how a lot of ADHD kids,
Hmm.
their brains are just wired
Hmm.
for
Some of them
music.
like even like drumming, like a drum set, you
Yeah.
know, like you're doing 62 different things.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's very,
yeah.
very
Between the
engaging
feet
for
and the
them.
two hands, and yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. I just watched Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili
Yes,
Peppers
yep.
group
I've
in
seen his videos.
Minnesota. And so he was out there with the marching band and I was watching him drum and
Oh,
I
I
thought,
haven't seen that.
oh my goodness,
I've
you
seen the
are
ones where
absolutely
I've seen
amazing.
his videos where they just play a song to him that he's never heard,
Uh-huh.
and he just
All over the place.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, so he grew up in Minnesota, or not, he's born here, at least,
Okay.
I think. But then he went to school and was in the marching band and whatnot. So anyway, his parents both graduated from the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
So for homecoming, whatever, last week or the week before,
Mhm.
they invited him back to play with the marching band. And here
Oh,
he is in the middle of the football field with his drum set
yeah.
and all the band is playing all around him and they're doing different Red Hot Chili Pepper songs. I
Oh,
watched this whole video. It was like 15 minutes. It was absolutely
I
amazing
bet it was.
what he's doing all over that drum.
Oh, I have to look that up.
Sorry, I
I have to
digress,
look
but
that
that
up. Yeah. And then, well, yeah, now we're on TikTok. There's another video of there's this baby that I guess the dad is a drummer and he stuck the kid on the drums and he's maybe 2 years old and he's the dad just gives him songs
oh,
and it's
wow.
it's like amazing, but you're talking about like he is teaching his brain how to do this,
Right.
so that he'll be able to play without even thinking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all
Just
right.
amazing.
I'm gonna let you go. We've been on a while. See, everybody always thinks they're not going to have enough to talk about, and then an hour and a half later, here we are.
Right.
Thanks so much for taking time out to talk to me. I really, really appreciate it, and I think the parents are going to learn a lot. Can you give me your contact information if someone needs to get a hold of you? Do you have a website or an
Absolutely.
email?
Absolutely. Yep.
Go ahead, tell it, say it out loud.
Okay. So my website is
Spell that.
rhythm-inmotion.com. So rhythm, RH, oh gosh, I have to write it out.
Do
RH, whatever rhythm is, RHYTHM, and then do a little hyphen,
Mhm.
and then inmotion.com.
Okay. Put those two words together. Okay, so it's rhythm-inmotion.com.
Yes,
And they
because
can email you through that?
yep, because I have a contact on that. So once
Yep.
they go in there, and then I offer a free 1 hour consultation. So, if people just want to have a consult, up
Great.
to an
Yeah.
hour,
Okay.
I'm happy to do that as well.
Wonderful.
Yep, but they can contact me through the website for sure.
Okay, terrific. All right. Thanks, Beth. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening and it helped you gain a new perspective. To learn more about our children's book series, Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, or to learn more about what we do at Robbie's World Foundation, simply visit our website at robbiesworldbook.com.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.